Welcome to an in-depth look at U.S. naval blockades, exploring their history, purpose, and impact on global affairs. A naval blockade is one of the most powerful tools in a nation's military and diplomatic arsenal. But what exactly does it entail? A naval blockade is the attempt to prevent goods, personnel, or military supplies from entering or leaving a port or coastline by naval forces. It's important to distinguish a formal blockade, which is an act of war recognized by international law, from naval interdiction, which is a less formal measure often used in peacetime for security or counter-smuggling operations. The 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis provides one of the most famous and tense examples of a U.S. naval operation aimed at isolating a nation, the Cuban Quarantine. In October 1962, the discovery of Soviet intermediate-range ballistic missiles in Cuba triggered a high-stakes standoff between the U.S. and the USSR, pushing the world to the brink of nuclear war. President John F. Kennedy purposefully used the term quarantine rather than blockade to describe the naval operation around Cuba. This strategic linguistic choice positioned the action as a defensive measure under the Organization of American States, thus avoiding the legal declaration of a, quote, blockade, which is typically considered an act of war. The naval quarantine successfully intercepted Soviet ships, leading to negotiations and, eventually, the withdrawal of the Soviet missiles, marking a decisive victory for diplomacy during the Cold War. Moving to a modern example, let's look at the strategic choke point of the Strait of Hormuz, a recurring flashpoint for naval tensions. The Strait of Hormuz is critical, as roughly a third of the world's seaborne oil passes through this narrow waterway, linking the Persian Gulf with the open ocean. While a formal U.S. naval blockade is not currently in place, threats from Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz have repeatedly raised the specter of a potential naval confrontation, which would severely disrupt global oil supplies. Any blockade in this vital area would immediately involve complex international law considerations and carry immense geopolitical implications, likely drawing in major global powers. The concept of naval blockades highlights the critical role of sea power in projecting influence, enforcing policy, and safeguarding global commerce. From the quarantine in Cuba to potential scenarios in the Strait of Hormuz, naval blockades remain a powerful, albeit risky tool in international relations. Understanding naval blockades is essential for grasping how nations manage crises, control trade routes, and exercise military dominance on the high seas.